Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I don't avoid stories that happen in Michigan, although I'm embarrassed by them. But, crazy stuff happens in all of our states. So, what can I tell you? But a bunch of people sent me a story that was widely publicized and it was in the Associated Press, among other places. Father of 12-year-old boy handcuffed by police while taking trash out says he'll never accept an apology. And here's the crazy part. A kid was taking the garbage out, and the police came by and were looking for somebody. And for whatever reason, they grabbed the 12-year-old kid, put him in handcuffs, and he was simply taking out the trash. And so some people always jokingly say, gee, kids today won't do their chores. The kid's doing his chores, and he got handcuffed. So the father of the 12-year-old Michigan boy, who was wrongfully handcuffed outside his home while taking out the trash, said his son is traumatized by the experience and he can't accept the police department's apology. Now, the kid is black. He was briefly detained last week by a white police officer in what the Lansing Police Department called an unfortunate case of wrong place, wrong time. I'd also call that an unfortunate case of wrong person, handcuffs. But the Lansing Police Department chief also apologized to the family in a statement released on Friday. As the chief of police, I want to apologize that this incident had such an effect on this young man and his family. I'm asking for the community to consider all the facts of the situation before making a judgment. Now, the boy's father said in an interview with CNN that he will never accept an apology. My son did not deserve to be treated the way they treated him. No way, no shape or form. Justice for my son, that's all I want, nothing else. The boy was taking the trash out to the dumpster when he's approached by a police officer that had his gun unholstered and was holding it in front of him, according to a lawyer representing the family. Cell phone video circulating on social media shows the officer leading the boy, whose hands are cuffed behind his back, through the parking lot of an apartment complex. This all happened on Thursday. The officer had been searching for a suspect in a string of car thefts when he spotted the child. After about 3 minutes into the video of the incident, the officer removed the handcuffs and spoke with the boy for another 30 seconds. He was then allowed to join his father on the sidewalk. But keep in mind that the 3 minutes is in the video, and the video began with the kid already in handcuffs. So he was in handcuffs longer than 3 minutes. The father said he could sense something was wrong when his son was taking longer than usual to bring out the trash. So he went outside, and he said his son was in cuffs, and police were standing around him. I was mad about it because I was like my son would never break any law. So I rushed out and asked the cop, what's the problem? Why do you have my son in handcuffs? Just like that. The family's lawyers said that the child is traumatized and he's scared to go outside. Amid a backlash from the social media video, the department posted an explanation on Facebook to provide some background information on this unfortunate misunderstanding. Police said a witness had described a suspect's outfit before a person who matched the description ran from an officer into an apartment complex. Another officer saw the child, and they said that the outfit he was wearing was similar to the one described by the witness. So the police stopped him and released him when the officer realized he was not the suspect. Lawyers for the family say they have not received any additional details from police other than what was shared on social media. Families exploring legal options and the possibility of a lawsuit. So that's the story right there. Among other things, I'm sure you know that the police are probably wearing body cameras. So we can probably eventually see the entire story take place, assuming that the body camera footage exists. So that's one thing we don't know. We also don't know how long the kid was in handcuffs for. We also don't know how he was treated by the police officers who apprehended him and handcuffed him. Now, I know some people are going to say, Steve. Some people say it that way, by the way. Steve. Kids in handcuffs for 3 minutes, so what? Well, first of all, it's probably more than 3 minutes. But number two, when you're 12 years old and you get handcuffed in your apartment complex where your neighbors and friends can see you, I can see that being a traumatizing event as a 12-year-old kid. But number two, and I'm going to let you know this, when I was younger, I've mentioned before, I grew up in a community called Birmingham, Michigan. Birmingham, Michigan. Not Alabama, not England. Michigan. Birmingham, Michigan. And I had encounters with the police during my life, just a couple times. And I'm talking about before I worked at the gas station and dealt with them on a business level, towing vehicles for them. And I remember going down the street on my bicycle and having a police car slow down and stop and call out to me and my friend and say, hey, come over here for a second. And us going, oh, okay. And we put our bikes down, we walk over to the police car, and the cop starts asking us questions about something. We hadn't done anything, and we're not even sure what he's asking us about, but he asks us where we came from, where are we going, did we see anything? And this is broad daylight, it's the summertime. And I remember at the time, after it was all over, going, what's up with that? But walking away from it, I remember telling my friends about it. Oh, I got questioned by the police, And it was no big deal. And I have no idea. I don't remember what the cop asked us about. But he did ask us where we came from. I could tell he's looking at us to see if we were carrying anything, but we weren't because it's summertime, and obviously there's only so much you can be carrying on you. And we were on our bicycles, Stingray bicycles. And I remember at the time going, that's kind of weird, but, whatever. But we didn't get handcuffed. And if I'd been handcuffed, I think it would have made me feel differently about that interaction. And so it's hard to imagine this by simply hearing what we heard and understanding the full scope of it. It might be the family decides not to do anything about this. Nothing happens. It might be. I don't know. They might file a lawsuit and it might litigate it. And a jury might come back and either award something or not award something. Or it might settle. We might never find out what they got. Those are all possibilities here. There's probably more I haven't thought of. But ask yourself this, and there's two different ways you can look at this. If you can think back to the time when you were 12 years old, and some of us can still kind of remember that, ask yourself how would you feel if you were simply taking out the trash by yourself, cops came up, handcuffed you, and then took you over someplace and started quizzing you about something you hadn't done. How would you feel about that? And if you say, Steve, I'd be fine with that. I had no problem with that. Okay, I suppose then the next question is this. Do you have kids? Kids ever hit 12 years old? Are they going to? Ask yourself how you'd feel if you sent your kid to take the trash out. Took an unusually lengthy time to do that. So you go, hey, where's my kid? You go walking outside and you see a police officer leading your kid away in handcuffs. You, excuse me, officer. What's happening? That's my son. Oh. And you find out that, they called in a description of somebody and I mean, was the description of a kid 12 years old, really? I mean, and so I would just ask you to stop for a second and consider it from one of those two perspectives, if not both. Either it's you in the handcuffs or it's your kid in the handcuffs. You got no problem with that? Then I guess you got no problem with that. I think most people would have a problem with one of the two. And at that point, it's kind of like, okay, let's see what happens. So I'm not advocating and saying, hey, they should throw $1 billion at this family and grovel and fire everybody. I'm not saying that. But I can see their point. So this one has made national news again. And as you guessed, it is, in fact, a white police officer and a black child. Father of 12-year-old handcuffed by police while taking the trash out says he'll never accept an apology. And we don't know what the 12-year-old boy thinks. But quite frankly, I don't think I'd want the press talking to my kid at the age of 12. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Why isn't phonetic spelled the way it sounds?